Stories 2 is a love letter to Monster Hunter. What do I mean by that? Well, every new Monster Hunter journey is a magical experience. You slay your way through fantastical creatures, and along that path of hunting, you can't help but feel attached to some of them, maybe to all of them, but dearly to a couple. You will have your favorite monster, you will have your favorite moment, and that sticks with you. And you might celebrate it by wearing their armor, by using their weapon, by hunting them more than any other. But nothing comes close to celebrating the love that can form between a hunter, a player, and a Monster Hunter game than Stories 2. Stories 1 was charm incarnate. It was sweet. It was a beautiful, quirky experience that had its weirdness, its rough edges, its questionable design decisions, but through it all, you couldn't help but grin. It was heartwarming. All it needed was refining. All it needed was polishing. And let me tell you that Stories 2 Wings of Ruin positively shines. So without further ado, let's ride on! Seriously, the amount of times in this game that Naviru yells ride on as you and everyone you're with does this cheesy yet endearing and surprisingly badass pose until it culminates in, honestly, one of the most incredibly epic moments I've ever experienced in a game, never mind Monster Hunter, is just wonderful. So then, Stories 2. Bottom line, this game is wonderful. It is absolutely special, and as I said with the first, it is charming beyond compare. It really glows. It has this life about it that dances in every single moment. Okay, well, you know, nearly every moment. Garrett, oh my god. It's hard to truly put into words what a game like Stories 2 does for you, because yes, it is perhaps predictable where the story will go. It is perhaps incredibly cheesy. It's incredibly tropey, but you still can't help when you get to these beautifully done, breathtaking and mesmerizing cutscenes. You can't help as the twists reveal themselves that you thought might well be a thing 6 hours ago. You can't help as these climactic moments happen, the friends you've made along the way, friendshipping their way through the battles. You cannot help sit back and just go, yes! As you cheer on Insert Monstie here as they be an absolutely goddamn hero, and I cannot stress how brilliantly easily you get invested in this. How lovely it feels when it payoffs. You just really start to care. No matter how silly it all might be when you take a step back and think, there are the moments where that goes out the window and you are all in. And it's just thinking about it right now, I can't stop smiling. It really is special. Nothing celebrates the world of Monster Hunter and the love that we players have for these creatures and these experiences like Stories 2. It's no coincidence the bonds of kinship are such a strong theme through all of it, because you form them with your Monsties. It really starts to feel personal, and that's so great. And you just find yourself celebrating what is happening. There are a few cutscenes in this game that are some of the most hype ridiculously awesome moments I have ever experienced. You just want to sit back and cheer on what's happening because it's just, bottom line, bloody cool. It really is. It is a spectacle, and it is so full of heart. The characters that are in it, the dialogue, it really is, well, full of kinship, and you will find your kinship meter absolutely brimming by the time you see those credits roll. And look, the story in a Stories game is obviously important. You could argue it's paramount, and it delivers. It makes a lot more sense than the first game. The beat-to-beat moments are much more impactful. I'm not going to tell you it is a masterpiece of deep storytelling. No, but I am going to tell you it is exactly what you want from something like Monster Hunter Stories. It tickles all the right places. It really, really does. And it doesn't waste your time. You get from place to place at a really good pace. You don't feel strung along. There's very little in the way of why are we doing this or fetch questiness. The game is a good 20 to 30 hours if you absolutely rush to the end, but even then you have the entirety of high rank endgame. But if you actually do the side quests, if you explore, if you get your Monsties and have a play around with your team, you are going to be getting easily 50 plus hours of this at a minimum. Many of us, including me of course, will be hitting hundreds upon hundreds as we explore every little bit of depth this surprisingly deep game has to offer. And incidentally, while I will say nor hint at nothing, the solution, the reason behind the Rage Rays and that whole mystery, how it wraps up, is one of the most incredible things you will ever see. Oh my god! So, seriously, look forward to that. And if everything I've said so far doesn't, get your appetite whet, how about this? The greatest thing you've ever seen. I know. So in terms of a journey to enjoy, that box is thoroughly ticked. If you like turn-based RPGs, if you like Monster Hunter, if you like Pokemon-esque games, you are going to like this. And if you like all three of the above, well, this might just be something of a masterpiece for you. But, as I just said, depth. Depth is right. The combat here on the surface may seem simple. Rock, paper, scissors, power, technical, speed. Go fast when they get powerful. Go powerful when they get technical. And go technical when they get fast. But that truly is just the surface. But that said, a grasp of that, a fundamental acceptance of that system can get you through the game. There will be moments of challenge, there will be difficulty, especially the Rage Raid boss fights, but that's a good thing. You want to have those heart-pounding close shaves. There is a fight that I sadly cannot show you, where I spent 6 turns on 1 health with no hearts and no recovery left, hanging on by the skin of my teeth, by correctly countering the opponent's move until the clutchest moment happened that saved the day. And I cannot wait for you to see it, but know that there is some real rewarding gameplay here. But that said, you can basically get through everything by just mastering the basics, and that's really good. The game feels incredibly well tuned, and that is a absolutely colossal improvement over Stories 1. Stories 1 I loved, I really did. It started something special that we're now seeing flourish and flower and bloom in Stories 2. In fact, I'd go so far as to, now having experienced Stories 2, to call Stories 1 the trial run, the beta run. They learnt from it, they've aged up the characters and the art style, and we'll get to how pretty everything looks later. But let's be honest, Rage Rays and monsters going angry from a mysterious light is essentially Black Blight and monsters going crazy from a mysterious blight. Like, there is ground retread here, but it's retread and then paved in brilliance. And that's honestly kind of what it needed to do. To make stories to work, to sell it to the audience that it deserves, to have it capture as many people as it really should have, it needs to just do what made the first one so endearing, but take it so much further, and that's what has happened. But I do hold Stories 1 to be incredibly awfully balanced. There are a few moments where the difficulty jumps so insanely that you just feel disheartened, that you want to put your goddamn head through a wall after your 18th restart at fighting bloody EX Ignactor. But that's okay, that might have just been me, I might have just been bad. But this time around in Stories 2, the most I ever had to retry a fight was 3 times, getting it on that 3rd time. And which monster was that? Well, I'm afraid I can't say. Ultimately, the battle system is much improved. It builds on the foundation and makes it much more, well, makes sense. Even just part damage and matching the correct damage type with your piercing, your blunt, and your slashing, finding out what's weak where on an enemy monster. In fact, how that's all presented to you, choosing the bits you're attacking, instead of having tails and wings and stuff appear almost as extra enemies like they did in Stories 1, everything, the bottom line here, just makes sense now. It's so infinitely more intuitive, while still giving you so many more options with how you go about fighting. Incidentally, that Gammoth, royal monsters, occasionally you'll find a sleeping monster and it will be well above your pay grade. Let's just say, good luck. Though I do maintain it'd be more fun if they were roaming around instead of just sleeping waiting for you to attack them, so you had to avoid this terrifying creature as you explore, but that's very minor. One change I cannot praise enough is that a monster will always be predictable. A monster that has just started the fight, they're calm, they're not in any special state, they will always do, for example, power. Always. Power, 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 or a special attack. So you know that's going to happen, and you can allow for it. You can counter it. You can get your speed on. However, when the monster enrages, okay, now you know it's going to switch to speed, and it will always be speed and speed and speed for while it's enraged. Okay, cool, you can get your technical on. And then it goes further and further, there's extra little layers to it. Like, for example, good old Astalos. When he's normal, he throws out technical attacks. When he's angry, he throws out power attacks. When he's in the air, he throws out speed attacks. So there is still plenty to learn, plenty to master, however it's consistent. Nothing was more irritating than be like, okay, I'm facing Tigrex. He should probably go power. I guess we'll go for speed. Oh, great. He chose technical. Right. All right. Wonderful. It just felt bad. It felt like you had no control. It felt like at any given moment in Stories 1, you could just randomly get screwed. Whereas now in Stories 2, your destiny is your own. If you fail, it is on your own back. And that feels really, really good. Even the mid-battle little mini-gamey clashes between your Monsties, the beam battles, the fly-offs, they, on top of looking just absolutely amazing, are much improved. You don't have to do the finicky flicking orbs at the goal, it's just a nice little event that you mash on through and enjoy. Everything just feels better. The actual system surrounding the battling, the building your Monsties, the improvements to genes and the right of channeling, how all 9 slots can be messed with and changed and you can make some truly ridiculously customized Monsties. The actual building is much, much better, not to mention thoroughly addicting. The grind is way lower. Now when you're farming the perfect gene, you don't need to hope that it lands in the perfect slot too. You just need to acquire it. You can also upgrade genes by layering the same one on top of an existing one, so there is a lot you can do to really power up your Monstie on top of the usual nutriments as well, but essentially we can make more interesting, weird, quirky, fun and powerful Monstie builds than ever before, while also farming for them in a much more friendly and less brutal way. And that is a big win in my book. And talking of book, look how many genes there are! Like, this is gonna take some seriously mining into to work out some really proper best ways to do things when it comes to your Monstie loadout, but that's good. That's exactly what we want to see. There is just looking at these pages, imagining the combinations and the playstyles. Oh yes, theorycraft building, that is my thing. And I, for one, am head over heels for the variety on display here. As was with the first game, finding eggs with the right genes, farming the right Monsties, farming your favorites, building the perfect Monstie. It is supremely satisfying. It deeply scratches an itch that I think everyone has to get that perfect partner for battle, and you will feel yourself reveling in that. There is tens and tens upon 20 upon hundreds of hours just in building the perfect Monstie from the hundreds of genes available in all of the combinations and all of the ideas you might have, complemented wonderfully with the refinements to the weapons. The two new ones in Gunlance and Bow feel fantastic. They have their unique properties and they're really a blast to use, especially the Gunlance. Blast. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And the improvements to the other four all work really well. Having three at once in a battle interplays lovely. Switching to Hunting Horn, giving everyone a buff up song affecting your allies, and then going back to say a greatsword to really put down the damage. You can focus on your Monstie, or you can focus on you and your abilities. There's lots of ways to play and lots of ways to take it, and you can experiment with it all. Especially when you're going up against a boss and you know what you'll be facing. The preparation for it you can do is extensive, from items to equipment to Monstie to an entire battle style built around beating it. When everything lines up, when you put that bit of work in, you feel like a god. You absolutely destroy, and that is wonderful.
Help me.
I don't know how I feel completely about always having a battle buddy with you, but undeniably it is interesting. They add an extra layer of depth, they add a bit of flavor. You get to see other weapons on display, you get to see other Monsties. Doing combined kinship attacks is just ludicrous, and something like Reverto coming along, well, he is just a hunter, which is a really unique thing to have. No Monstie, he just slams down and does ridiculous greatsword damage, because of course greatsword is the best. Look, I know that was just a snippet, but you see what I mean about the hypeness of the visuals in this game? Bloody hell. Oh! Okay, continuing on with refinements that extend past the actual battle itself, and truly I could talk for the next half an hour about the battle, but I want to reach some sort of conclusion before, the game releases in 2 days. I really love how dens are done now, how the egg finding is done now. It feels much easier and straightforward to get the Monsties you're after. You're really only rolling the dice with what egg you pick up. There is certainly a better flow to the whole overworld experience, and that's really nice to see too. Even just gathering being much simpler in the footsteps of World and Rise, having Everdens for bottle caps and having that shop to ease your path through the game, being able to buy armor and weaponry that is a little bit above where you are is a nice option to have. Everything just really works. It's streamlined, which again is a huge improvement over Stories 1, where a lot felt clunky. Just the UI and the presentation and how intuitive everything is really, really good. So, let's actually talk about, well, what you're going to be looking at. The visuals, the style, everything being aged up really works, yet it loses none of the charm of the first. It is bright, it is colourful, it is a striking art style, and it really captures you. Everything is just so beautifully done. The battle animations are just... The cutscenes animated are flawless. As usual, the kinships are glorious and ridiculous, and every single time is a real event that gets you pumped. every single bit of visual flair you can tell has had such passion and love put into it. The world feels so alive. Seeing all the monsters roaming around, seeing the beautiful environments, you get some really varied ones from, of course, your usual, your snows, your desert, but even this really pretty pink blossom grove. It just is lovely to see. Next up then, it would be remiss to not mention the few things that do niggle at me that I do think are not as good as they could be. Granted, they're minor in the grand scheme of things, don't take away from the experience. I unabashedly adore this game. However, firstly, in your overworld exploration, as with Stories 1, you have your, well, HMs to use Pokemon terms, but Monsties that can perform special actions. You know, they can break rocks to reveal shortcuts or chests, they can jump over gaps, as with Velocidrome in the trial, or they can climb up vines, you know the type. So this is nice, it uses your Monstie, it feels, you know, alive, and it does work. However, firstly, actually switching to the Monstie to then do it, to then switch back, although it's easier now, it prompts you to do it automatically, still feels a bit clunky, still takes you out of it for a bit. Secondly, and the main issue, is it forces you, if you want to have these completely optional exploratory moments, to have Monsties that you might not actually care for in order to do them. The example for me is, in order to dig and get up to diggable places, I had to use a Zephadrome. Oh, God, it pains me to admit it. Oh, I exaggerate, of course, but I really feel like these moments should be more ubiquitous across the Monsties. Anjanath should be able to break rocks. He should be able to jump. He does both those things while fighting you in the main game, so why can't he do it as a Monstie? My solution here is not to remove them, as they do add moments, but just to give more of them to more Monsties. Tigrex should be able to break rocks as well as climb. I just feel like it shouldn't be as restrictive as it is, and you shouldn't feel the need to choose between perhaps Monsties you don't really care for on your journey all about kinship and caring for your monsters, or skipping out on these extra little areas and loot. Fly is its own beast. It's empirically useful for grinding dens, finding locations, getting around in the endgame. That just needs to happen. Having a flyer is, yeah, that's just a thing. Though even then, there's a lot of flying monsters that you can't fly on, which is certainly a shame. So yeah, just a little thing of note that got me. The other thing to say is that the layouts inside monster dens and caves, and even in story locations, does repeat a lot. There is essentially tile sets that construct caves, and they get randomly put together, but you'll start recognizing pieces of it. The example I can use is while heading to a climactic story moment, there was this cavern heading into a cave, and it's very cool. But then in a subquest monster den, essentially next to it, there is this cavern leading into the tunnel. It's the exact same bit of terrain, and while it's not the worst thing, and honestly late game when you're farming eggs, recognizing the layout and knowing where to go to get to the nest faster is actually pretty useful, but it starts to repeat, I think, a little bit too soon. You will notice this even halfway through the game, and that's a little bit of a shame. But as I said, both these things by far and away don't take away from the pure magic that is this experience. Meeting the old characters is like seeing old friends. There is so much to dig into, to enjoy, to understand, to learn, and to build. There is so much to do. There is so much charm to find yourself smiling ear to ear at. There is so much love here, so much passion, so much well-crafted gorgeousness of a game that I cannot recommend it enough. Seriously, it's not just one of the best Monster experiences I've had, it's one of the best RPG experiences I've had, and this is ignoring, not even mentioning, the co-op, where you can go around and do co-op dens and co-op quests and fight with an actual person, a friend as your buddy, and that's just really awesome. Oh, for now then, everybody, let me know what you think. Let me know if you've enjoyed this review. I hope it has done what I want it to do, and just convey that this is an experience, a truly wonderful experience to keep with you forever. Alright, like me on this, subscribe for more. I will see you very soon with lots of stories to goodness. A goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world our stage. Goodbye.